Why did Trump torpedo it?
Torpedo what?
That bipartisan border bill that you just conceded was good.
No, I said it wasn't even necessary. All we needed was a new president.
You're saying that Donald Trump torpedoed it and that was a good thing because you don't think the bill was necessary.
No, because it would have just made Republicans look bad.
So in other words, you choose Republicans looking better and Democrats looking worse over a more secure border with less undocumented entry.
Well, we didn't have a secure border with Biden.
Well, the claim is that it would have been more secure and there would have been less undocumented entry if the bill passed. Mr. Tanny, if you want to go ahead and speak up and take it away, tell us why you support the worst president of your 24 years of life, Donald J. Trump.
Well, he's not the worst. He's the best.
Okay, all right. Well, if you're going to say he's the best president of your lifetime, that must mean he has some pretty crazy accomplishments under his belt. What is the best policy Donald Trump has ever passed, either be it in his first or second term, that makes you consider him to be the best president of all time?
He's a fighter. Did you see him when he almost had his life taken?
Okay, well, first and foremost, that's not a policy, so you're not answering my question.
There doesn't have to be a policy.
Well, that is how presidents prove their efficacy to the country, is by signing EOs into law or influencing policy through Congress. That's like their main functions insofar as how they'd impact the state of this country. Right? So obviously, if you consider him to be the best president of all time, he must have some damn good policy. How about this? Let's rephrase the question.
He's got good results. Have you seen the border?
Let's rephrase the question. I no longer want you to name his best policy. I just want you to name any one of his policies.
Yeah, the border.
So the border's a word. The border's not a policy.
Can you define a policy?
Sure. A bill influenced to get passed through Congress, then signed into law, or an executive order. What?
A policy is just an action or a set of actions carried out.
So that is how, like, the president would carry his actions out. Like, for instance, you said border. Okay. Well, the way
it turns
that Trump,
out all we needed was a new president.
1 second. So the way that he'd like impact the border is by memorandums, EOs, or bills through Congress.
Yeah, it turns out we just needed a new president to secure the border.
So, like, what policies he passed through Congress, or what executive orders has he signed into law to secure the border?
He doesn't have to.
So so then how did he secure the border? Like what? Because like, if there's no policies or EOs, that would imply that there's like no material change in the function of like ICE or the Border Patrol. So obviously, right, he's got to do something, right? So what has he done? You're already off to a terrible start.
More people down to the border to secure it.
Sent more people down to the border. So the more border agents you have, the more you fund border security, the more secure your border is. So because border security was funded significantly more under the Biden-Harris administration than they were under Trump's first term, this means, according to your logic, the border was more secure under Biden and Harris's administration than it was under Trump's first term.
No, because there was millions of illegal aliens flooding through.
Okay, so then you can't say that there is a necessary entailment between the amount of money you're funding the border and its security. Do you think that the Biden-Harris administration opened the border?
Yeah, they left it open.
They left it open. So that means that Trump opened it with his policy under his first term if they just stepped back and left it open?
No, Biden and Harris left it open.
So how do they leave it open? Let's talk. Did they open it?
They didn't take action to secure our border.
Okay, so you're basically saying that they stepped back, they stepped back, they didn't take action, and they rode on the coattails of the action taken by Trump in his first term. So all this means is that the policy passed by Trump in his first term opened the border, and then they stepped back, left that policy in place, took no action, and rode its coattails, which left it under their term too?
Exactly.
So Donald Trump opened the border.
No, he shut it down.
So if he shut it down under his first term and then they stepped back and didn't do anything, then why wasn't it not shut down under their term?
We're talking about right now.
So I'm talking about his first term, because you're the one that said they stepped back during their term and they just left the bygones be bygones. They didn't touch the border. Okay. So does this mean when Donald Trump touched the border with all of his policy in his first administration that he opened it and they just simply left it open?
So what was the border bill about that Biden was proposing?
So that's cute, but it's a pivot. I would really
It's not a pivot, it's a question.
It is. Well, the question in of itself is pivoting.
That's relating to what we're talking about.
It's not at all, because it does not relate to the question I'm asking you.
If we needed a bill, then why is the border secure right now?
Okay,
obviously we didn't need a bill, did we?
Can you please repeat the question I asked you?
Can you answer my question, or are you just gonna?
I will
evade
happily.
it?
I will happily answer your question after you answer mine. The reason that I'm evading your question is because you've now asked that question after I asked you the same question 3 times without a response, and I'm not okay with getting pushed around by my guests just because you do not have a response to what I'm saying. This is supposed to be a live for transparent, good faith discourse, and if you can't keep up because you don't have a response to the questions I'm asking, just let me know. Don't try to like covertly pivot and just re-ask me another irrelevant question instead. Like, let's try to, in good faith, engage in the substance of the dialogue. Once again, the question that I asked you 2 times without a response is very clear. You said that the Biden-Harris administration stepped back and left the border open under their administration via a lack of action. So does this mean that all the action Donald Trump took in his first term before they were in office, that was what actually opened the border? They just stepped back and they rode on the coattails of his open border policy and let bygones be bygones. So is that what you're saying? I just want to be clear.
No, I'm saying whatever Trump did in his first term, they didn't continue to do.
Okay,
that
like
was
what?
working.
So what did Trump do in his first term that was working that they stopped when they got the office?
The same thing he's doing right now,
Which is?
securing our border.
So I'm actually asking you for specific things. So what did he specifically do under his first term that secured the border that the Biden-Harris administration stopped when they gained access to the office?
By making it a priority.
So how did Donald Trump prioritize it through his policy? Like, I don't know how many times I need to repeat this. In fact, this is the last time I'm going to repeat this. So can you
I would
listen?
run away if I were you too.
So I'm actually not running. I'm asking you for clarification on what you're saying. If anything, that would imply that I'm running straight at you. Okay, so please clarify on what Donald Trump precisely did during his first term to secure the border that the Biden and Harris administration stopped doing.
Yeah, the wall construction that they stopped.
Wall construction. Okay.
The wall construction, the Great Wall of America.
So first and foremost, the wall construction under Donald Trump's first term did not secure the border. He built less than 50 miles, equivocating to around 3%. It is true. So he built less than 50 miles of new border wall. And then
if it didn't work, then why do they go around it?
What's that?
Why do they walk around it if it doesn't work?
Would that imply that it doesn't work because they walked right around it?
No, why would they walk all the way around it if it doesn't work and prevent them from coming in?
So it only covered 3% of the border, sir.
But the 3% that it covered worked.
Okay, but in totality it didn't, right?
Because it didn't get finished.
Right, and why didn't it get finished?
Because Biden stopped construction of it.
So that's actually not true. The reason it didn't get finished under Trump's first term was because he couldn't work with Democrats in Congress to get it pushed through his congressional legislation because he sucks at getting people together.
Oh, because they just fought against everything he wanted to do?
So more so, he couldn't work
they can't
with
do
them.
now anymore because we have power and you don't?
So I don't think that you're understanding the truth. The truth of the matter is that everybody in Congress is a little prissy, and in order to get them to work together, you have to make some concessions and pass bipartisan legislation, and he was unwilling to work with Democrats in Congress. It's one of those environments where you either sink or swim, and he's sunk. And funny enough, the Biden-Harris administration tried to pick up where he left off with that border construction to work with Republicans, and in that bipartisan border bill that Trump torpedoed, guess what? It included funding to build more of that glorious Trump wall than what was ever built under his first term, and he didn't want it. So Donald Trump actually
allowed
thwarted
5,000 people a day to come through.
Donald Trump would have actually thwarted more construction of that wall under the Biden-Harris administration.
No, the bill would have allowed 5,000 people to come through every day.
Really? Explain it to me.
It's in the bill.
Really? Read it to me.
I don't have it in front of me.
Obviously you don't. Would you like me to clarify on what the truth is?
It would have sent more money to Ukraine.
Let's not pivot to Ukraine. Explain to me your statement.
That's
You
why
said
we didn't
that the
support the
bill
bill.
would have allowed 5,000 people to enter in every day. Go ahead and read the bill. Explain it to me.
I don't have the bill sitting in front of me.
Okay, so basically you can't explain what you're saying at all. Would you like me to explain what you're saying? Because I know what you're talking about. It doesn't sound like you do.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you so much. So basically, what you're referencing is an emergency cap of a weekly rolling average. So if there is a weekly rolling average of more than 5,000 entries, it gives the president, whoever it may be, the special authority to completely shut the border down. Now, I don't care about that special authority whatsoever. We don't have it right now. We didn't have it under Trump's first term, and I don't think it was that meaningful. The meaningful part of the bill was to expedite the legal means of entering into this country by hiring more judges, which would naturally reduce the incentivization that would have existed for undocumented entry. Now, you told me that you didn't support the bill as it included funding for Ukraine. That's not true at all. Would you like me to explain why?
No, why do you keep pivoting?
How am I pivoting?
Because you won't address the fact that the border is more secure under Trump. That's what I've been talking about this entire time.
You're pivoting. Why are you accusing me of pivoting when you're pivoting? You made the claim that
The numbers show the border is more secure than it's ever been.
Hey, I'm so sorry. Do you not remember what you said less than a minute ago? You said that Republicans didn't support the bill because it included funding for Ukraine. And I asked if you'd like me to explain why you're wrong. And then you accused me of pivoting. Can you just explain to me and the 5.5 thousand people watching how I'm pivoting by responding to the last thing you said?
Because you keep on rabbit trailing, you won't stay on topic.
How am I getting off topic when I'm directly responding to the very last thing you said? More specifically, the idea that Republicans didn't support the bill as it included funding for Ukraine. How can you possibly consider that to be me getting off topic? I'm asking you for a long explanation. Use more
Was there
than
more
4
border
words.
crossings under Biden or Trump?
Why are you
It's as
not
simple as
responding
that.
to the words that are coming out of my mouth?
It's as simple as that, really.
Can you acknowledge what I just said?
Can you answer my question?
I'm not going to answer a damn thing you say until you acknowledge what I just said.
I didn't hear it.
Okay, well, open your ears. You accused me of pivoting when I asked if I could respond to the last thing you said, which was that Republicans didn't support the bipartisan border bill under the Biden-Harris administration because it included funding for Ukraine. Did you or did you not say that?
I did say that.
Okay, so why would you consider it to be me pivoting when I'm responding to what you said? That's a little idiotic.
Because you still haven't addressed my point.
You just
This entire
said that
time.
the point you made was that Republicans didn't support the bipartisan border bill because it included funding for Ukraine. I'm going to address that. You're wrong. The reason why you're wrong is because the appropriations for money and funding for Ukraine, Gaza, Israel, as well as another country were separated from the border bill, and the Republicans still shot down that border bill. However, they passed all the appropriations, including funding for Ukraine. Acknowledge that you're wrong, or at the bare minimum, tell me why you're still right, even though I've been able to critique your position.
So did we need the bill or not? Was the bill necessary?
Okay, so you're not acknowledging anything I've said since you joined this live. Why are you running away from me?
Was the bill necessary or not? Because obviously it wasn't.
As soon as you tell me why you're running from everything that I'm saying, I'll consider entertaining one thing you gotta say. I've responded, I've entertained, and I've critiqued every single thing you've said. You have not acknowledged a single one of my critiques. Like, for instance, I'll be specific. The last 2 points you made was that the bill was bad because it allowed 5,000 individuals in per week. I gave a minute and a half critique to that. You didn't acknowledge it at all. The second thing you said is that the bill was bad because it included funding for Ukraine. I included a minute critique of that, and you didn't acknowledge it at all. So for us to move forward in this conversation, I'm now going to require you to acknowledge my critiques of those positions. And if you can't,
Okay.
guess what? I'm going to move on to the next guest.
Even if we grant that you're correct on both of those statements, Donald Trump still has a more secure border than Joe Biden did.
Okay, so
So
now
it
that
doesn't
you've
change anything.
now that you've granted I was correct about those two statements,
No, so
why
even
did
if
Trump
you did.
torpedo it?
Torpedo what?
That bipartisan border bill that you just conceded was good.
No, I said it wasn't even necessary. All we needed was a new president.
Okay, so you're basically saying that Donald Trump justifiably torpedoed it because it wasn't necessary? You're saying that Donald Trump torpedoed it and that was a good thing because you don't think the bill was necessary.
No, because it would have just made Republicans look bad.
So in other words, you choose Republicans looking better and Democrats looking worse over a more secure border with less undocumented entry.
Well, we didn't have a secure border with Biden.
Well, the claim is that it would have been more secure and there would have been less undocumented entry if the bill passed. And you prefer
That's not my
Democrats
claim.
looking worse over...
That wasn't my claim.
Okay, so then what is your claim? Why did Donald Trump torpedo the border bill?
I don't know. I'm not Donald Trump.
Do you think that when he did torpedo that border bill, he did something that was bad?
No.
Okay, why?
What did he do that was bad?
Torpedo the bill that would have reduced undocumented entry and made the border more secure.
He did that while he's president.
But it could have been done earlier if he didn't torpedo that bill. That's why I think when he torpedoed that bill, that was a bad thing. Isn't that reasonable?
No.
Why not?
We didn't need the bill.
We didn't need the bill. So in other words, once again, I was right. You are saying that it wasn't bad for him to torpedo it since it wasn't necessary. Okay. I don't know why you'd argue it's not necessary when you say you only voted for the fascists for better border security, but at the end of the day, I'll grant that it wasn't necessary, but I don't think that means therefore it was not a bad thing when he torpedoed it, since it still would have reduced undocumented entry and better secured the border years ago.
So can you acknowledge our border is more secure under Trump?
If you could respond to what I just said, I will give you my thoughts on that acknowledgement.
I don't know why he torpedoed the bill. What does that have to do with anything?
Well, I just gave you an argument why it was bad for him to torpedo the bill, and seemingly you cannot combat it.
You're saying that the bill would have prevented illegal immigrants from
It
coming
would
in.
have reduced undocumented entry. Yes.
And I'm saying we didn't even need the bill because we're seeing what Trump is doing.
So-
He doesn't need a bill, does he?
Why didn't you want to reduce undocumented entry earlier?
We did.
No, you stopped a bill that would have further reduced undocumented entry years ago, and you find no issue with that. Why?
Because I'm saying we don't even need the bill. Look at the border now.
So we actually did need that bill under the Biden-Harris administration, as it would have reduced undocumented entry years ago. Okay? Because that bill didn't pass, undocumented entry was not reduced because of the provisions that would have been introduced. That's common sense.
That's obviously not the case if Trump is securing the border.
So you think that the numbers of undocumented immigrants coming into America went down under the Biden-Harris administration years ago, even though that bill was never passed? That's completely incoherent. Like I just want to
down under Trump.
I just want to be clear. Can you repeat what I'm saying just to make sure that my words aren't going in one ear and out the other?
Yeah, you're saying the bill would have prevented more people from coming in.
Okay, is that a true or a false statement?
It's false.
Okay, why?
Because Donald Trump is doing it without a bill.
Okay. So this is
Therefore, we didn't need a bill.
So this is a fallacious position. Okay. So
How?
Yeah, for the intents and purposes of me demonstrating why your position is fallacious, I'll just grant that Donald Trump has been able to reduce entry without a bill. Okay, but that doesn't mean that bill wouldn't have reduced entry. It's not a mutually exclusive dichotomy. You're giving me a false dichotomy. You're saying that because Donald Trump's been able to reduce entry without a bill, that bill wouldn't have reduced entry. Okay, so two things could be true. Donald Trump can reduce entry without a bill, but it could also be true that bill would have reduced entry. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So what is Trump doing that Biden couldn't have done without the bill?
I want you to repeat what I just said, so I'm ensuring that you're understanding what I'm saying. Repeat what I just said.
Yeah, you're saying that the bill can prevent illegal immigrants and so can not having the bill.
So, no, what I said was even if Trump can reduce entry without a bill, that bill still yet would have reduced entry. Meaning that earlier when you told me that I was wrong in saying that the bill would have reduced entry, you were actually the one in the wrong. So go ahead. Do you accept the proposition that bill would have reduced entry?
No.
Why not?
Because what is Trump doing that Biden couldn't have done without the bill?
I just completely dismantled that logic.
You didn't.
I did. I demonstrated how it's not mutually exclusive. Two things can be true. That bill could have reduced entry, and Trump can reduce entry right now without a bill.
So I'll use your same logic. Biden could have just not had the bill and reduced entry.
So you're
Why did
saying
he need to
that
propose a bill?
Biden could have reduced entry with an executive order. Okay, that can be true, but that doesn't make the claim that bill would have reduced entry false. Do you understand what I'm saying? He could have reduced entry with an executive order. In fact, that's what he ended up doing at the end of his term. Was he passed an EO that reduced entry by upwards of 70%? But that doesn't mean that bill wouldn't have reduced entry. How does the idea that you could reduce undocumented entry with an EO disprove the idea that you could also reduce undocumented entry with a bill? Explain that to me.
Yeah, you're muting me because you're getting dog walked.
I muted you because you interrupted me, not because you're dog walking me.
This entire audience can see what you're doing.
Go ahead and respond to what I said. Would you like me to repeat what I said? I have a feeling you weren't listening.
You expect me in this audience to take you seriously if you're just going to mute me the whole time?
I mean, I don't think you take anything seriously. So I don't expect you to take me seriously, but I do expect you to respond to what I'm saying. That's what a debate is all about. Would you like me to repeat what I said?
Not really, but sure, go ahead.
Okay, I will. So you said because Biden could have reduced undocumented entry with an EO, therefore he couldn't have reduced undocumented entry with a bill. That logic is false. Two things can be true at once. He could have reduced undocumented entry with an EO, just like he could have also reduced undocumented entry with a bill. So how does the fact that he could have reduced undocumented entry with an EO disprove my claim that that bill would have reduced undocumented entry?
So why didn't he do it with an EO?
Thank you so much for the meteor shower. Okay, I knew that's what you were going to ask, so I already have my thought and responses reloaded. He actually ended up doing that, but that's completely irrelevant to my question, because keep in mind my question in a nutshell is just simply why you think the fact that he could have reduced undocumented entry with an EO refutes and makes the proposition false that he also could have reduced undocumented entry with a bill. Because keep in mind, I'm giving you pushback against your claim that no, that bill wouldn't have reduced undocumented entry.
Yeah, you're not making any sense here.
I mean, I don't think I'm making much sense because you don't understand what I'm saying. That's a user error, not my fault. I remember when I was in junior year calculus 2, my teacher made no goddamn sense to me, all right? But turns out the only reason why I didn't understand what he was saying was because I didn't do my homework, right? So I think the analogous thing to say here would be that you're not doing your homework. Right? Because you believe in very incoherent delusions, okay? Particularly the incoherent delusion that you're trying to argue today is that bipartisan border bill wouldn't have reduced undocumented entry because he could have reduced undocumented entry with an EO. That's completely intangible, incoherent bullshit.